It is a big idea, a new world order.
In the near future, Earth is dominated by a powerful world government.
What's wrong?
Nothing really. I just feel that I need something stronger.
If you have a problem, don't hesitate to ask for assistance.
Stay calm.
For more enjoyment and greater efficiency, consumption is being standardized.
If you feel you are not properly sedated, call 348-844 immediately. Failure to do so may result in prosecution for criminal drug evasion.
Before 105.
Prefix DHX is pronounced incurable
Let's
and
get the
shall be
111.
commissioned and held in detention.
I've really got to hand it to the globalists. They have stuck to their plan. If you go back to the mid-1850s, British scientists, in fact, leading scientists of the day, like Galton and, of course, Wedgwood, Huxley, Darwin, envisioned a planned world controlled by a scientific elite. Malthus, more than 100 years before them, had also developed a similar plan. And they have been developing it and refining it ever since. And you can read the books that they wrote about their plan. Galton envisioned computers and the double helix of DNA and the science of biometrics and developed the system of eugenics based off Plato's writings from thousands of years before to set up a planned technocracy to control every facet of human life, carried out by a very tiny scientific elite on top. And the British Empire by the 1850s was the dominant force in the world, and they needed systems or sciences of population control, so they put the equivalent of trillions of dollars today into funding these sciences. And though these sciences were anti-human in many ways, you have to give them credit that many of the modern sciences we enjoy today were developed through their labors. 10 years ago, I produced a documentary film that tens of millions of people watched online, and it was a big success in stores around the country. So it was well received, titled ENDGAME, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. In the near future, Earth is dominated by a powerful world government. Once free nations are slaves to the will of a tiny elite. The dawn of a new dark age is upon mankind. But folks thought that it was like a science fiction dystopia film, even though it was real quotes and real video of world leaders in the last 80 years calling for an authoritarian, science-based global dictatorship. Fast forward to late 2016, and much of what we put in the film and predicted as near future developments has already happened, and the rest of it is now being publicly announced. A lot of people ask me, Alex, how did you know all of this? Are you psychic? And I explained to them again, have you watched the film? It's video clips, it's film clips, it's newsreels, going back to the 20s and 30s where they were admitting all of this. Pre-Hitler, eugenics and this new science-based control of human procreation, compact cities, you name it, was accepted by the public because they believed anything scientific must be good. Hitler's plan for living space and the final solution, admittedly, came out of the Cold Springs Harbor Rockefeller Foundation program in New York and was transferred in the 30s to the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute and was the map for the Nazis. IBM's Thomas Watson and thousands of IBM engineers ran the Nazi war machine and the Holocaust. And to understand the system we're going into, it's important to listen to Aldous Huxley, whose brother ran the United Nations and the UNESCO program for 3 decades and is the father of the transhumanist program and the former head of the World Eugenics Society, Julian Huxley. Both men wrote books. Julian Huxley wrote nonfiction, and Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World, wrote predominantly fiction. And Huxley gave speeches before his death in the early 1960s at Berkeley and other colleges, which you can find online, where he admits all of this in hour-long and hour-and-a-half-long speeches.
Compare the parable of Brave New World with another parable which was put forth more recently in George Orwell's book, 1984. I'm inclined to think that the scientific dictatorships of the future, and I think there are going to be scientific dictatorships in many parts of the world, will be probably a good deal nearer to the Brave New World pattern than to the 1984 pattern. They will be a good deal nearer, not because of any humanitarian qualms in the scientific dictators, but simply because the Brave New World pattern is probably a good deal more efficient than the other. That if you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, the state of servitude, the state of being, well, it seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy. And these methods, I think, are a real refinement on the older methods of terror, because they combine methods of terror with methods of acceptance.
Then he said, by the year 2000, it will be evident that this was not fiction and actually a fictionalized account of what we're actually intending to build. Now that we've broken down a brief history of this scientific system of control, let's look at the latest huge developments.
Gentlemen, this for the gentlemen out there who are not yet married, let me just explain to you, your goal is to improve your gene pool by marrying somebody who is superior to you.
Shortly after my film came out in 2007, Barack Obama got into office, and all of a sudden, the eugenics program and the technocracy program, not just here in the US, but globally, went from being secret or restricted and not for public promotion to suddenly being pushed everywhere. There were shows about the world after humans, how great it'll be, and how horrible humans are, and New York Times bestsellers about how a wonderful plague would come and kill everybody, and how humans are parasites, and professors were lauded and praised who gave speeches about airborne Ebola killing 90% of the population, and how 12 monkeys needs to become a reality. Suddenly, Ray Kurzweil said, we'll soon merge the machines. Everyone else will be like cockroaches. You'll assimilate by the Borg, or you will be basically destroyed. And now they have MIT magazine. They have the Davos group. They have, almost on a daily basis, Wired magazine, all the modern intelligentsia groups who went from saying I was insane and none of this existed and it was fake news and it was made up and it was conspiracy theory, to rolling it out because they're so close to their program being completed. There was an article today on INFOWORS.com by Michael Snyder, proof that the elite really do want a global society with no possessions, no privacy, and no freedom. If they get their way, our world is going to look vastly different than it does now in the not too distant future. And there are scores of links in his article and quotes by world leaders currently saying this. The first link goes to an article that came out in November of this year, just a month ago, at the World Economic Forum, that is basically the mouthpiece of the private Bilderberg Group and secretive Club of Rome. The very same members attend this, and they want a $100 trillion global tax every decade that's paid out every year. They want the state running your family. They admit it all. And the exhibits in the article, in Snyder's article, are again the establishment themselves. In this article alone, from the perspective of a woman, she basically admits she has Stockholm syndrome, but says it's good. She's given up her free will. Everything she does is surveilled. AI computers read her mind in 2030. The robots shop for her food. She eats what she's told. She goes where she's told. She lives in a compact city, 200 square foot coffin apartment, and it's so liberating and it's so good for the earth. But there are bad people that live out in collapsing old houses and hide from the government outside the new centralized megacities that I warned you about in Endgame, and she just doesn't like them because they're bad. They didn't trust the government. They were racist and had to be dealt with. And she knows the AI computers read her mind and track everything she does. But the world's a better place, and she submits to it and gives into it and just hopes they never use it against her. Here's the headline. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. And see, for someone awake, you're like, this is insulting, or this is written from the perspective of someone saying this is bad. No, they're pushing this officially. Taxes by the mile, not being able to have a car, only getting meat once a year, the government telling you by high school what you're going to be when you grow up. Total centralization.
I'm V. I'm looking forward to showing you around Plandopolis today. Are you ready to go? Have you got your calorie card open on your smartphone? I registered your visit with Slick Travel Corp the other day, so they've allotted you a journey time to match mine. It makes so much sense, doesn't it? We're so lucky. Our kids were allocated a school quite near my practice, so I can drop them off on the way. It saves on our calorie ration. Well, it won't be long until the little darlings get their career announcements. They've been working so hard, so I'm sure they'll get something good. Not that there's anything wrong with fixing carbon scrubbers for a living or anything. Right, what's on the menu this month? No, not meat. It's not your birthday. The Global Food Council are doing a really good job of keeping food production going. I mean, you don't get the choice you used to, but we're better off than most. I think it's probably easiest to walk from here. You barely see a car in the city centre nowadays, unless you're rich. Oh, the state knows they just aren't practical anymore. We're all trying to meet our global carbon deal. Electric bikes are so much better for getting around our neighbourhood. And why waste valuable space on car parks when you can use them to grow food?
That's why Huxley's book, Brave New World, and his nonfiction book, Brave New World and the Visit, are so important. Because he tells you this is the real world. The cloning, the compact cities, the coffin apartments, the government drugging everybody, starting at age 3, which they're now doing with Prozac-type drugs. The total control, the breaking up of men and women, making everyone look the same. As professors are now saying, oh, it'll be great when we all look the same. This is the killing of the individual, forcing us into Plato's cave again, forcing us into a controlled reality. And the allegory in the George Lucas film with Robert Duvall that came out in the early 1970s of Duvall escaping the robot sentries, which they admit they're setting up for real to oversee us now, and coming out onto the surface and seeing the sun and the larger world is a rebirth of Plato's allegory. This is so incredible, folks, and it's what my film Endgame barely in 3 hours scratches the surface of, but still is the most cutting-edge film out there. I want to challenge all of you to realize that when they tell you this is by 2030, 13 years away, and they're saying no one has a car, no one has any type of freedom, you're totally controlled, but it's great to be poor, classism has ended. Here's the problem. They're not going to ever get rid of the ultra-rich. That's why Obama says you can't have a car, you can't have air conditioning to Africans. He's teaching them to be austere and to be poor so the globalists can have all the resources.
If everybody's raising living standards to the point where everybody's got a car and everybody's got air conditioning and everybody's got a big house, well, the planet will boil over.
They don't say we're going to innovate better science and cleaner burning systems into the future. They don't say we're going to go to space-based colonies or undersea colonies. No. They just simply say you can't have wealth. You've got to take the job we say. You've got to go into a caste system, all for the greater good. They write white papers admitting in the 60s and 70s that they would sell this as being cool, as being trendy. They make chains fun. So now robots will decide what you eat. They'll go to the store. There won't be any job for you because the world's being designed where humans aren't involved in any of the industry. This is a total checkmate so the globalists can dictate the terms of our surrender. Wake up to it. Understand I've been right all along. Understand that we've trailblazed and told you what was really happening decades before it was admitted. We told you bisphenol A was changing people's genetics and hormones. Now it's admitted 20 years after I told you. We told you hydrofluorosilicic acid or fluorides lowering IQs and causing brain damage. Now Harvard admits it. We told you Obamacare had death panels and doubled prices. Now they admit it. It was in the bill. They just said I was a liar and fake news. We told you they were coming after your guns. Now they admit they want to ban them. We told you they were establishing a worldwide corporate government. Now they admit it. I told you they were lying about the polls and Trump and that he was really going to win. See who was right. Ladies and gentlemen, you think about how everything I talked about 20 years ago has pretty much come true, or they're now announcing it now. And I always wondered how they would respond to us is they launched their final program and then everything we've said has been proven correct. Their answer is censor us. And now the EU says shut off INFOWORS access on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and in Europe. Now they're saying it in the US. Now NPR, CBS, CNBC, they're all saying shut me down because they're scared, folks. I've asked globalists in off-the-record conversations, why, and some on air, why they're doing this. And they say because the public's too dumb. We told them what we're doing in our own publications. Then we tell them in the public publications it's not true. Because metaphysically, we've got to tell them somewhere with clues of how to get out of it. But we don't make it easy. And if they can't figure it out, they don't deserve to ascend. We're bringing back survival of the fittest, social Darwinism, Alex. You need to be with us because you see the program and the plan.
Gradually, by selective breeding, the congenital differences between rulers and ruled will increase until they become almost different species. A revolt of the plebs would become as unthinkable as an organized insurrection of sheep against the practice of eating mutton. Bertrand Russell.
H.G. Wells, Aldous Huxley, Bertrand Russell, and hundreds of other eugenicists constantly bragged about how the establishment believed themselves to be a separate, more advanced species than the common man. Top eugenicists were bold enough to admit that their real goal was not improving the heredity of the commoner, but to further dumb them down so that they could be more manageable. Nobel Prize winner Russell wrote at length about how vaccinations filled with mercury and other brain-damaging compounds would induce partial chemical lobotomies and develop a servile zombie population.
Diet, injections, and injunctions will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable, and any serious criticism of the powers that be will become psychologically impossible. Bertrand Russell.
Over 100 years ago, eugenicist social planners said that they'd use mind-altering drugs to control the population. By 2007, more than 20% of the U.S. population were on some type of prescription antidepressant.
Take action and defend free speech and retain your humanity. Technology's great, medicine's great. That's all things that fellow humans innovated and created. That's why humans are so great. They're telling us humans are crap, that humans are obsolete, that the future doesn't need us, that we're in a post-human world, and they're doing everything culturally they can to make us unhealthy, stupid, lazy, and dumbed down, to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. That they're just restoring balance and making humans go through rites of passage again, that we don't just deserve to be given all this largesse by our ancestors, that we must first go through competition with our fellow men, ascend as the star men or astronauts, go forth on the human-made craft of our own technology to space, face AI that's going to try to kill us, overcome the AI, and then interdimensionally travel to a new level of consciousness and be reincarnated as a star child or the Lucifer force or the Christ force and brought back to planet Earth. Now, before the mainstream media attacks me and says that's my weird delusion, I'm quoting you from deep research, the secret doctrine of the globalist, who envisioned all this over 150 years ago and are now manifesting it. And then, of course, Arthur C. Clarke, Sir Arthur C. Clarke, OSS, MI6, inventor of the telecommunications satellite, one of their top futurists, sat at the feet of H.G. Wells, one of their other top futurists, and the head of the Fabian Socialist Society. He basically, before he died, wrote letters and gave speeches admitting the Luciferian ascension of 2001 Space Odyssey. And of course, in Childhood's End, he really gets into what they think is really going on. And that's why they have top billionaires and top globalists coming out saying, oh, this is actually a virtual reality of some evil entity that's controlling us, but we're real, and we're going to build new artificial realities and invite you into those. Literal Matrix, see? And it's only 2016. It's going to get crazier. And they believe you're profane. They believe you're stupid. They believe you're not ready to hear all this. I believe in Jesus Christ, not the fake one of the churches, but the real Christ that stands against this enemy that wants to destroy our free will and force us into this corporate matrix board. The evidence is now overwhelming. It's incontrovertible. The entire global corporate elite media combine, from the communist Chinese to the Pope, to the current president, to Hillary Clinton, to NPR, to you name it, is demonizing yours truly and INFOWARS because we are releasing the information. We've reverse engineered the globalist operation. They didn't even hide it. And we are presenting to you here in a clearly understandable, not hidden way what's happening. We're taking the occult or the hidden and bringing it out to light. I hope you listen, I hope you get involved, and I hope you choose free will, and I hope you choose to follow the God that made us in his image, Jesus Christ, and not the fallen God of this world.
What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
In the decade after iodine was added to staple foods, there was a 15-point increase in IQs in the areas that had previously been deficient. This is something on record our bodies need. I've gone out and found the best source for myself and my family. I hope you'll visit InfoWarsLife.com and get our InfoWars Life Survival Shield, because all of my research shows this is absolutely key to getting people out of the brain fog that they've been artificially put into by the social engineers.
Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
DNA Force.
When cells become toxic, they die early and aging sets in.
DNA Force.
No one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. Just one of the key compounds, BioPQQ, is backed by major clinical studies.
DNA Force.
We now have the synergistic solution. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
DNA Force.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
In the near future, Earth is dominated by a powerful world government.
It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
For thousands of years, their dark order grew. Now, as they hail the birth of the New World Order, their great dream of exterminating 80% of humanity is at hand. For the first time in history, the elite's plan for world government is blown wide open. You will learn the secret that drives the entire New World Order agenda.
Bilderberg is making great progress toward a world government, and only an educated, informed public can stop them in their tracks.
Alex, it's Chalabi, eh?
For the first time, all the pieces have been put together. The dots have been connected, and the picture is crystal clear. Earth's ruling elite believe they have discovered the fountain of youth. But before they can attain it, 80% of us must die. A psychopathic technocracy is establishing world government so there can be no escape from their plan.
The New World Order is the old world order. I mean, it's just the names have changed, the appearances have changed.
Most people have no idea. They're not after money. They have all the money they need. They're after power. That's their aphrodisiac.
I was pulled out of a plane in Munich. They interrogated me 4 hours.
Some shots were fired.
Need you to move off the property.
Their great dream of exterminating 80% of humanity is at hand. Endgame, blueprint for global enslavement. You have been warned.